Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Welcome to Born to be a Sports Agent, where I deliver legal and contract insight for sports professionals navigating hiring, firing, injury, and representation. Welcome to my podcast, Born to be a Sports Agent. This is Jill Baxter, and this is my husband, John Baxter.
Today, we have a panel of JD students at McGeorge School of Law, and we're here to discuss what makes a college athlete a prospective NFL draft pick. My name is Renee Lopez.
I'm Alexis Padilla.
And I'm Isabel. And today we have the honor of interviewing John Baxter. Coach Baxter has a remarkable coaching career, about 40 years, and he is currently the associate head coach, tight ends, and special teams coordinator at Fresno State. He was the 2011 National Special Teams Coordinator of the Year, and he is committed to excellence in sports and academics.
My first question is about how scouting enters a player's life. So can you talk us through how that process looks like from the start to finish?
Yeah, so, I can only talk to you about traditionally how it's been, because with all these changing of positions with people, I think all these processes are going to change, but let's just say traditionally, a player is going to go through college and that type of stuff. And, the rules have been that, you cannot, you're not even eligible to go to the National Football League until you've been in college 3 years. Very few people are ever good enough at the end of 3 years to go. So typically you're looking at 4th or 5th year players, but typically, every team, there's 32 teams in the National Football League, and every one of those teams has a kind of a dual scouting department. They have pro scouting and they have college scouting. Pro scouting is grading all the players on 32 other rosters, looking for when they're going to become free agents, and to see if those guys would fit in their organization once that happens. And the first time that would happen is at the end of a rookie contract or after a player's first 4 years. For their first 4 years, they're pretty much owned by that team, unless traded. So, and then when college happens, these 32 teams have college scouting, and they have, say, regional scouts. So a scout, the Philadelphia Eagles would have, a West Coast scout, a Midwest scout, an East Coast scout, a Southeastern scout. But the New England Patriots would have the same thing, and the Los Angeles Rams would have the same thing. And so usually what happens is if a player has if a player is entering his last year of eligibility, they'll certainly take our roster of players exhausting eligibility, and they'll go through that roster and they'll start to, look for statistics or look for signs that young person might be a prospect. And if you have a player that's, had a particularly great season, and there's evidence that they might come out as juniors, they'll obviously begin to watch them. And what pro scouting looks like is there's times when we let them on our campus and there's times when we don't. There are some college teams that won't let pro scouts in to grade their roster. There's some teams that, because it's kind of like, these are our players and, we're not interested in showing them to you. Okay. There's other teams that, they're wide open and pro scouts can come and go as they like. Most teams, most college football organizations are very open to, pro scouts and those types of things. But we'll have rules, for example, that the pro scouts can be there for the first 45 minutes of practice, then they have to leave. We're very protective of our schematics and things that we do, and these are football people. When we're preparing for an opponent, we don't need a pro scout who's going campus to campus to campus go, wow, you should see the plays Fresno State's running. So there's a little bit of paranoia about that. But the pro scouts will come through, usually all 32 teams will come through with their regional scouts during training camp. Training camp is 4 weeks before our first game. And when they come through, they'll have a list and they'll sit down with our recruiting coordinator. They'll sit down with them, and if they have a relationship with the coaches, they'll see if they can spend some time with coaches. That time is usually pretty brief. But they'll take their list and whittle it down to 2, 3, 4, 5, depending where you're at, 10 prospects that you might have. They'll watch them practice. And then when practice is over, almost every one of us in our building has a pro scout room where they can go in during the day and they can watch these guys on film and start to write up these evaluations. And for a pro scout, I think it's a pretty thankless job myself. I would never do that job because they're on the road August, September, October, and November. They spend zero time with their families. They're at, say, Fresno State today, watching film, watching practice, talking to coaches, and they'll drive to their next stop, and maybe they're at Stanford tomorrow, and then they'll stay up till late at night, and they'll type up their reports, and they have to send reports in every day. After that first round of scouts come through, then in September, October, November, you'll see them come back again, and if there's a really good player, they'll come back to practice and or even watch a game. If Fresno State's playing Boise State or like we open at USC next year, they'll come to that game and kind of get a feel for both teams. And, through that process of watching games on television, listening to what opponents say about these players, talking to coaches, they'll usually talk to the trainers and get their injury history. They'll talk to the strength coach and get their weightlifting numbers. A really good pro scout will go into the academic services area and see how good a student he is or how close he is to his degree. And really good pro scouts will do comprehensive workups on these guys so that by the time, we play our bowl game or even when we get to November, they're pretty much ready to decide who they would like to see at the scouting combine in Indianapolis. And then the process goes from there. Senior Bowl or Hula Bowl or college all-star games, college bowl games, go to the NFL Combine. They do in-person interviews as well as on-field testing. And they just continue to gather data. And then if a guy's a really good prospect, they'll go to their campus and work them out. And then culminates in the draft, which is the last weekend of April.
And if I can ask a follow-up, do you usually tell your players if there are NFL scouts watching? that day?
We pay no attention to them. Okay. Our job is to coach our football team, and that's their business. We usually are all about not creating distractions. It's not my job to make a pro player. It's my job to win college games and be that young person's coach. I could care less if the pro scouts are there or not. And really I can't concern myself with who they're looking at or what they're doing or anything else. That's not to be as cold as that probably sounds, but when we're on the practice field, we get 2 hours with those players. That is gold. And if I were to tell a player that, hey, the New England Patriots are here to watch you, all I've done is create a distraction for that young person that's keeping away from what we're here to do. But, they're pretty well aware who they are because they all look the same. They stand there in their Lululemon pants, their quarter zips, and their talking shirts. So it's pretty easy to see who the Miami Dolphins are, who the Philadelphia Eagles are, and who the Chicago Bears are because they're walking billboards.
Okay, but John, do you tell them after they're done playing who was interested in them? If they ask you.
I might. And here's the thing. Those guys are grading all of the prospects at all the schools regionally. Then they combine all the data to figure out who they're at nationally. And, for example, we've got a really good offensive tackle here. And how's he doing? Well, hey, he's doing great, this and that. But I don't know how he compares to the rest of the national inventory. That's for them to decide where these guys are on their draft board or maybe not on their draft board. I don't know where our guy fits in the national scheme of things. What I do know is there's 32 teams and there's 7 rounds. So to be drafted, you got to be one of a team's 7 selections.
Right.
Give or take trade deals.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
It's a lot different, say, for example, like tomorrow I'm going to be on the road recruiting, and that high school coach is going to say, hey, Coach Baxter from Fresno State's going to be here today. Well, that's really important because that kid needs to know, well, who's interested in him and who's recruiting him. That's way different than the draft.
Got it. Okay.
And my last question for you is, do you know what scouts typically look for when they're grading your players?
Look, yes and no. Universally, we are all looking for the same things when you're looking for a good football player, okay? But each organization has its kind of own proprietary, player write-up and, rubric, and some of them have, certain things they want that scout to identify when they're in person. Every team kind of has its own way of doing their own evaluations. And, it's really not in the Miami Dolphins' best interest to stand out there and tell the Chicago Bears what they think of a player. They're paying that scout to go on the road and do an independent evaluation. And one of the things that these teams, the good teams, all do is they cross-check, which means in August they send their regional scout through. And then after that regional scout has screened 26 universities, they feel like, there's 17 players that maybe fit their draft class. So they'll take those scouts and they'll switch them and they'll send a new scout in and say, here's 17 players, go in and evaluate those guys. But they don't give them any of the notes that the previous scout had.
Well, Coach, thank you for answering those questions in the way you did. Internally, at what point, or if at all, do you, as a coach, consider a player from moving to like the good status to someone who's draftable? Do you identify that at all? I know you said you're not in the business of necessarily creating pro players and rather winning games, but at any point do you identify that?
I can tell you based on coaching in 5 decades, okay, 80s, 90s, 2000s, the 10s, and the 20s, I can tell you that I know who a good candidate is as a pro prospect, okay? But one of the things that I tell every player that I'll give you the speech that I give them all. Hey guys, I think you've got a fighting chance at the next level. I've seen guys better than you get cut and guys not as good as you make it. Okay. At a certain point, you got to have some luck. You got to be a good player and you got to be what a team needs when they need it. Okay. So, if you just went and your favorite bread is sourdough bread and there was a huge sale on sourdough bread, okay, or maybe there wasn't a sale on sourdough bread, but you just went and picked some up because you were in the Bay Area, okay, and you bought 30 loaves and put them in the freezer, which will take you, 6 months to use. And then all of a sudden you see blowout sales, sourdough bread, 20% off. Well, problem is you don't need it. So it really doesn't matter how good it is or what it's for sale. It doesn't fit. Okay. All of those guys, what recruiting is in college is we're shopping for our team and trying to talk people into it. What the draft is they're shopping for their team. Okay. And man, there's just no way to handicap who needs what, when, and why. They might not need offensive tackles until an offensive tackle becomes a free agent and says, I'm not going to re-sign with you. I'm going to go in the open market. And now all of a sudden they need one. Okay. So, everybody's building their rosters. All right. So like when I say I've seen guys not as good as you make it, guys better than you get cut, that's real. And I can tell everybody listening to this interview, the same thing the last thing I tell the players is there's one thing. I'm going to ask you guys back a question. There's one thing you got to do to make a roster in the National Football League. You got to take another man's job. You got to be good enough that when you walk in that locker room, there's 53 positions on the team and there's 53 lockers, and you got to make one of those guys pack their shit and go home. So, and there's probably a 7-year all-pro driving a Suburban with 3 kids in the back. He's not just going to give that job to you because you're the hotshot rookie out of Fresno State. So when it comes down to it, it is a brutal business. Okay. Yeah. And literally dog eat dog. So when Jill starts talking to you about contracts and those things, in my mind, we might disagree. We do all the time, but that's why her job is important. The most important job she does is protect that player by the terms of a contract. Because the day you make the team, they're going to try to find somebody to take your job. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. Today, Marlon came and talked to him, and then Wes came. So Marlon talked about that, how he was really nervous about all the time that somebody else was going to be taking his job.
Yeah, at no point can you think you're that valuable. Because you might get to a point like Tom Brady did where he was that valuable and the Patriots asked him to take a pay cut so they could afford some other spots on the roster. And he said, but I'm worth this on the open market. And they couldn't come to terms. So he just left. It all just depends on who has the leverage in the deal.
Yep.
But in professional sports, there's no hypocrisy. It is what it is. Okay? There's an owner, and every other person from the GM on down is a line item on that owner's spreadsheet. And if your number doesn't work, it doesn't matter how we feel about you, you're gone. Take let's say there's a player that I coached, a tight end here that played for the New York Giants, and it got to the point where he was going into his 7th year, and his minimum salary at, say, 7 years was, say, $950,000. Okay. And at that point, league minimum was like $475. Well, thank you for your 7 years, but we can get a similar player to you for half price and save $500,000 on the cap.
So how do you think, Wes came on today and he went to the one snapping camp and he was talking about the different protections that he's learning now to deal with the NFL. How do you think he's going to do against?
That's real easy. You can either go right or left. There's no other way a center can go. Okay.
Right. Okay,
so
but
it's a violation of the anti-simplicity rule there.
Okay, but how do you think he's going to do against the bigger guys?
Well, I think he'll do fine. But there's 32 jobs in the world, and there's 32 guys doing them.
Right.
And you go make one of those guys pack their stuff and leave. I don't know.
An older guy who's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like the guy at the 49ers.
It just depends. Like I said, I've seen Wes is a very good prospect.
Yes.
A really good player. Went to junior college at San Mateo, then went to Cal, didn't play one down at Cal, was a grad transfer. I got him to come here. And, he's had a phenomenal 2 years of development. He's a really good prospect. Okay. Now, of those 32 guys doing their jobs, there's probably 10%, 3.2 jobs that'll turn over.
Yep.
Is he good enough against every person in the free agent market, last year's graduates, the year before that's graduates, the UFL guys, the CFL guys, and this year's college seniors to take one of those 3 jobs?
It's a tough road for the specialist.
I'm just keeping it real here, okay?
I know. It's a tough road for long snaps.
It's a tough road for everybody. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Sure. So we were wondering, you touched on it a little bit, but we were wondering if throughout your time of being a coach, have there been any sort of notable changes in the drafting process, and what can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, first of all, the draft used to be, Jill could tell you, we'd have to look it up. I don't know, but the draft used to be like 16 rounds.
Yeah, there did.
Okay. Now with, the current CBA, collective bargaining agreement, or the CBA, the roster sizes, the practice squad used to be like a handful of guys. Now it's like
16.
Yeah, now it's 16. Okay, but those guys don't get a full rookie salary. They get, something less. And, but those are good opportunities for guys. There's 53 jobs on the active roster. You have till a few hours before the game to declare your active roster. Jill and I went to the Super Bowl when Steve Spock was playing in it, and he called me in tears. I mean, tears. Yeah. Because he was upset, because we were going to the game, and he's like, they deactivated me. I'm not going to get to play in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Yeah. It was right before the game too.
Yeah. It was 4 hours before. Yeah. And so I can tell all of you, do you know how a player knows if he's going to play in the game? If you get to the stadium and there's a jersey in your locker, you're playing. If there's no jersey, you're on the bench. You don't dress. Okay. But there's a certain time deadline where they have to declare they're 53. Okay. And I'm like, hey, get over it. You're still going to get a full check. Okay. So, just count your money and enjoy the game, but the draft at the end of the day is still the draft, and it's really no different than when we were kids in PE class and we picked teams. Okay. And there was always that dreaded last kid picked. Okay. But that is the reality of it. I mean, the bottom line is they've messed with the format of it, and now they do it in live cities, but the process is really the same. Evaluate them every possible way you can, physically, mentally, emotionally, all those kinds of things. Try to see who fits and do the best job you can of bringing a guy into your organization. And with all the research they do, they still bust draft picks. I mean, first round draft choices get cut and free agents make it. So, who knows? One thing you can't measure a man's passion or his heart.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions for John?
Anybody can ask anything.
The best player you've ever coached?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I'll tell you, the 2 best players I've ever seen play, the best player I've ever coached, hands down, bar none, Adoree Jackson at USC.
Oh.
Okay. Hands down, the best player I've ever seen play live and played against him, Reggie Bush at USC.
I guess.
Let's put it this way, or Adoree was a defensive back that we would give him a couple of plays on offense. And in the Notre Dame game, 2016, when we beat them by, I don't know, a lot, Adoree touched the ball 5 times for 4 touchdowns. And those weren't like, from the 2-yard line. It's a kickoff return, a punt return, a toss sweep, and a screen,
Yeah. Yeah. He was very talented. Is he still playing?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, I don't watch pro football, so I don't.
I know he doesn't.
I don't like pro football. I don't like anything about it. I'm a college coach. Always have been and always will be.
Thanks for listening to Born to be a Sports Agent, where we discuss relevant legal issues, contract issues, and discuss representation for everyone in sports. This is Jill McBride Baxter, and my core values are protection, advocacy, and trust. If you are looking for representation and you need someone to take you where you can't take yourself, please go to my website at jillmcbridebaxter.com or email me at jillbaxter@me.com and set up a meeting for a free consultation. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week. And good luck in sports.